Do you remember the everyday things that once filled American life in the 1950s, now nearly forgotten? From quirky gadgets to neighborhood rituals, they shaped daily routines in ways we barely notice today. Some made life easier, some just brought a little joy, and all tell stories about a bygone era. Let's take a trip back in time and uncover 100 forgotten things from 1950s America that you didn't even know existed. Black and white TV shows like I Love Lucy. In the early 1950s, black and white television wasn't just entertainment, it was magic in a box. Families would gather around bulky wooden consoles, the kind that doubled as living room furniture, to watch moving pictures flicker to life. Shows like I Love Lucy weren't just popular, they were cultural events. Lucy Ricardo's antics could make an entire neighborhood laugh in unison, with everyone tuning in at the same exact time, because there was no DVR, no streaming, not even reruns at first. If you missed an episode, you missed it forever. Television in those days had a certain communal magic. You didn't scroll endlessly to pick something to watch. The programming was decided for you, and families structured their evenings around it. Kids would rush through homework, dads would settle into their favorite armchair, and moms would bring out snacks like popcorn or homemade caramel corn. Rabbit ear antennas. You had to adjust constantly. Before streaming services or even reliable cable, there were rabbit ear antennas, wobbly metal contraptions perched on top of every television set in mid-century America. Watching TV was part sport, part science experiment, and part family drama. Someone always had to be the designated antenna adjuster, usually a kid, who would stand next to the set while the rest of the family shouted instructions like a pit crew. The picture quality was finicky at best. Snowy static could appear without warning, or the image might ghost and blur as if two Lucys were stomping grapes at once. Adding aluminum foil to the ends of the rabbit ears was a common hack. And sometimes it actually worked, though it made your TV look like it was ready to make contact with extraterrestrials. While frustrating, there was something oddly charming about this ritual. Test patterns before broadcasts started. In the early days of television, there was no such thing as 24-hour programming. Stations signed on and off each day like businesses opening and closing shop. In that in-between time, usually early morning or late at night, viewers were greeted by a curious image known as the test pattern. It was usually a black and white graphic featuring geometric shapes, grids, and the famous circular design with a Native American chief in the center. The purpose wasn't entertainment, but calibration. Technicians used it to adjust contrast, brightness, and focus, while families at home could fine-tune their TV sets. For kids who woke up too early on Saturday morning, eager to catch cartoons, the test pattern was a frustrating gatekeeper. They'd sit cross-legged in front of the TV, bleary-eyed, waiting for that moment when the static image would finally dissolve into a cheerful announcer's voice. Live commercials during shows. In the 1950s, commercials weren't slick, pre-recorded clips carefully edited to perfection. They were live, unfolding right in the middle of the show you were watching, often performed by the very same actors who'd just been playing their characters. Imagine watching I Love Lucy, only for Lucy to suddenly turn to the camera and start talking about the miracle powers of a new laundry detergent. There were no second takes, no clever jump cuts, and certainly no digital effects. If a product spilled, a line was flubbed, or someone forgot their cue, it all went out to millions of viewers exactly as it happened. These ads often felt like mini performances. Looking back now, these live commercials seem quaint compared to today's highly produced ads. but they gave television a sense of intimacy and authenticity that's hard to replicate. Saturday morning cartoons as a weekly event. There was a time when Saturday mornings were for waking up early, pouring a bowl of sugary cereal, and staking out the best spot on the couch. For kids in the 1950s and for decades after, Saturday morning cartoons were a sacred ritual, the highlight of the entire week. If you wanted to watch your favorite characters, you had exactly one chance. Saturday morning from sunrise until lunchtime. Miss it, and you were out of luck until the following week. The experience was almost ceremonial. Kids would tumble out of bed, often before their parents were awake, and plant themselves in front of the television. Millions of kids were doing the exact same thing at the exact same time. And come Monday morning, the schoolyard buzzed with excited retellings. Drive-in movie theaters. In the 1950s, a night at the movies didn't always mean crowded lobbies and darkened theaters. Instead, many families and teenagers piled into their cars and headed to the local drive-in, where a giant outdoor screen lit up the night sky. Drive-in movie theaters were more than just a place to watch films. They were a cultural phenomenon, a uniquely mid-century blend of entertainment and freedom. Each parking spot was equipped with a small speaker on a metal post. You'd roll down your window, hang the speaker inside, and adjust the crackly volume. The sound was never perfect, sometimes tinny, sometimes distorted, but it added to the charm. For teenagers, the drive-in was a rite of passage. For parents, it was a budget-friendly night out that didn't require babysitters or fancy clothes. Captain Kangaroo and early kids programming. Long before streaming services and on-demand cartoons, children's television was a rare and carefully scheduled treat. In the 1950s, one of the most beloved figures was Captain Kangaroo, a gentle, grandfatherly character played by Bob Keeshan. The show first aired in 1955 and quickly became a staple in American households, blending stories, puppets, music, and lessons about kindness and curiosity. Unlike today's flashy, fast-paced kids shows, Captain Kangaroo moved at a slower, more deliberate pace. It felt almost like story time with a trusted adult. Alongside the captain were memorable characters like Mr. Green Jeans and Bunny Rabbit. For many kids, watching Captain Kangaroo wasn't just entertainment, it was part of their daily routine. Game shows. Like What's My Line? In the early days of television, game shows were lively, communal events that brought families together around the glowing black and white screen. One of the most iconic was What's My Line, which first aired in 1950. Unlike today's fast-paced, flashy game shows, What's My Line had a quieter sophistication, set up more like a parlor game. A panel of witty celebrities would try to guess the unusual occupations of ordinary guests through yes or no questions. The real fun came when guests had bizarre jobs, like a snake charmer or a professional bubble blower. One highlight was the Mystery Guest Round, where blindfolded panelists had to identify famous celebrities. These shows relied on quick thinking and playful banter, rather than gimmicks or huge cash prizes. Cigarette ads on TV. In the 1950s and 60s, cigarette ads weren't just common on television. They were everywhere, woven into the very fabric of the shows people loved. Smoking was considered glamorous, sophisticated, even healthy. Doctors appeared in commercials recommending certain brands, while suave actors puffed away on screen. These ads were incredibly polished, with catchy jingles and memorable slogans. A deep-voiced announcer might promise a smooth, satisfying smoke, while a well-dressed couple laughed together over cocktails, their cigarettes glowing in the dim light. Cigarette companies were major sponsors of television shows, which meant the ads weren't limited to commercial breaks. Sometimes the hosts or actors worked the product right into the show itself. By today's standards, these commercials are almost unthinkable, given what we now know about the dangers of smoking. But in the mid-century world of sleek black and white televisions, cigarette ads were just another symbol of the era. Slick, persuasive, and a reminder of how dramatically cultural norms can change. Home movies. Shot on Super 8, film before smartphones made it effortless to record every moment. Families relied on Super 8 film cameras to capture their memories. These small, lightweight cameras were considered cutting edge, offering everyday people the chance to make their own movies. Home movies shot on Super 8 had a unique, slightly grainy look with soft colors that instantly evoke nostalgia. There was no sound at first, just the whirring of the camera capturing fleeting moments frame by frame. Parents would carefully line up their kids in the backyard, coaxing stiff smiles while they filmed birthday parties, first steps, and family vacations. Watching these films was its own special ritual. After sending the film off to be developed, a wait that felt like forever, the family would gather in a darkened living room for movie night. The projector's soft hum filled the air as images flickered onto a pull-down screen. Each reel is a fragile time capsule, preserving moments that might otherwise have been lost to memory. Rotary phones with shared party lines. Before smartphones and even before push-button dialing, there were rotary phones. Heavy, clunky devices with a circular dial that clicked satisfyingly as you spun it. In the 1950s, many homes didn't have the luxury of a private phone line. Instead, they had party lines, where several households shared the same phone connection. Each family had its own unique ring pattern, but everyone's phone would still ring whenever anyone on that line received a call. Privacy was practically non-existent. If you picked up the receiver at the wrong time, you might accidentally interrupt someone else's conversation. For some, this was entertainment. Eavesdropping on the party line became a guilty pleasure. While this setup could be frustrating, it also created a sense of community. Neighbors weren't just names on a mailbox, they were voices in your home. Clotheslines and wooden clothespins. Before electric dryers became common, doing laundry meant hanging clothes outside to dry on clotheslines, secured with simple wooden clothespins. It was a chore that required both time and strategy, because you weren't just washing clothes, you were working with the weather. Clotheslines often stretched across backyards, and laundry flapping in the wind was a common sight. Drying clothes this way wasn't just practical, it added a certain freshness that no machine can replicate. Sunlight naturally brightened whites, and the breeze left fabric smelling clean and crisp. There was also a communal element to the process. Seeing someone's laundry hanging out to dry sparked conversations between neighbors and sometimes friendly competition over who had the whitest sheets. Pyrex nesting bowls with pastel colors. In the heart of every 1950s kitchen, you'd likely find a set of Pyrex nesting bowls in soft pastel hues: butter yellow, sky blue, soft pink, and mint green. These bowls weren't just kitchen tools, they were symbols of domestic pride and cheer in a world still recovering from wartime austerity. Each set usually included 4 bowls, ranging from large to small, designed to fit neatly inside one another. Their versatility made them indispensable. The largest bowl might be used for mixing bread dough, while smaller ones held cookie batter or served as popcorn bowls during family movie nights. They were sturdy enough to handle anything and could move seamlessly from prep to oven to table. Today, original Pyrex nesting bowls are prized collectibles, their colors now faded to a soft vintage patina. Washboards and wringer washing machines. Before modern washing machines became standard, doing laundry was a labor-intensive ritual. In the 1950s, many households were caught between old traditions and new technology. Some families still relied on the classic washboard, a simple wooden frame with a rippled metal surface. For those lucky enough to own a wringer washing machine, the process was slightly easier, but still far from effortless. These early machines would agitate the clothes in soapy water. Then came the nerve-wracking part, feeding each piece through 2 spinning rollers to squeeze out excess water. Housewives had to be careful because the wringer didn't distinguish between a wet towel and a careless hand. Laundry day was an all-day event with no shortcuts, representing a time when even basic household tasks required resilience and resourcefulness. Door-to-door vacuum cleaner salesman. In the 1950s, one of the most exciting and sometimes dreaded household events was a visit from a door-to-door vacuum cleaner salesman. These salesmen were masters of showmanship, armed with polished machines and polished pitches. They didn't just talk about their vacuums, they demonstrated them with flair, sprinkling dirt directly onto the customer's rug and then dramatically sweeping it up. The sales pitch wasn't just about cleaning floors, it was about selling a dream of modernity, efficiency, and status. These visits could be exhausting, with skilled salesmen sometimes lingering for hours. But for many families, it was a normal part of suburban life, a reminder of a time when technology, salesmanship, and domestic dreams all met at the front door. Catalog shopping through Sears and Montgomery Ward. Long before online shopping, families turned to thick, glossy catalogs from Sears and Montgomery Ward. In the 1950s, these catalogs were more than shopping tools. They were portals to possibility. A single catalog could contain everything from winter coats to bicycles, furniture, and even prefabricated houses. For rural families especially, this was their primary connection to modern goods. The ritual of catalog shopping was cherished. When a new catalog arrived, it was an event. Children would flip to the toy section, circling dream items, while parents examined practical necessities. Placing an order required patience. Customers filled out order forms by hand, then mailed them back. Weeks later, the anticipated package would arrive, feeling like Christmas morning. Tupperware parties hosted in living rooms. In the 1950s, shopping often happened in someone's living room, surrounded by friends and neighbors. Tupperware parties were a social and sales phenomenon that blended housework, community, and fun. Tupperware, with its colorful, airtight plastic containers, was revolutionary. Lightweight, stackable containers that promised to keep leftovers fresh. A typical party included coffee, cookies, and a Tupperware consultant demonstrating the famous burp seal. There were games, prizes, and laughter, making buying kitchenware feel like entertainment. For many women, these parties were a chance to socialize and step outside daily routines. For consultants, Tupperware offered a rare path to financial independence when career opportunities for women were limited. Milk glass lamps and tableware. In the 1950s, no well-dressed home was complete without milk glass. Distinctive, opaque white glassware that experienced a major revival during the mid-century era. Its soft, creamy appearance gave it timeless elegance, while its affordability made it accessible to everyday families. Milk glass lamps were especially popular, casting a warm, gentle glow with ornate patterns like raised dots, swirls, or floral motifs. Tableware followed suit with serving bowls, platters, and candy dishes, becoming staples of mid-century entertaining. For many households, milk glass items were tied to milestone moments. Popular wedding gifts, proudly displayed in china cabinets or passed down through generations. Home sewing kits for making dresses. In the 1950s, before fast fashion filled department stores, many women relied on home sewing kits to create their own dresses. These kits contained essentials: sturdy scissors, spools of thread, a tomato-shaped pincushion, needles, measuring tape, and buttons. Store-bought fabric was often cheaper than buying a finished dress, and sewing allowed women to customize their wardrobes. Popular pattern companies like Simplicity and McCall's released endless designs. The process was both practical and deeply satisfying. Mothers taught daughters how to thread needles and follow patterns, passing down skills that connected generations. Friends might gather for sewing circles, sharing tips and laughter. Every stitch told a story. Shoe-fitting fluoroscopes, foot x-rays. In the 1950s, many shoe stores featured shoe-fitting fluoroscopes, tall, boxy machines that used actual x-rays to help customers find the perfect fit. You'd slip your feet into an opening, then peer through a viewing window to see your foot bones glowing eerily on a fluorescent screen. These machines were pitched as modern, high-tech solutions to ill-fitting shoes. The downside was exposing customers, especially kids, to unnecessary radiation doses. Back then, health risks weren't well understood, and safety measures were non-existent. By the late 1950s and early 1960s, growing concerns about radiation led to their decline. Today, they're relics displayed in museums as both nostalgia and cautionary tale. Jell-O molds shaped like castles. In the 1950s, few desserts captured mid-century creativity like castle-shaped Jell-O molds. These towering, wobbly creations weren't just desserts. They were centerpieces and conversation starters. At a time when convenience foods were becoming popular, gelatin was the perfect canvas for homemakers eager to impress with minimal effort and maximum flair. Special aluminum molds featured intricate designs with turrets and towers. The real challenge was flipping it out without disaster. A clean release was a small victory. These desserts weren't limited to sweet flavors. Savory Jell-O molds with shredded chicken or vegetables were surprisingly common. Displaying a castle-shaped Jell-O was a way to show pride and skill. Refrigerator cake. Recipes. In the 1950s, when home refrigeration became reliable, refrigerator cakes took center stage. Unlike traditional baked goods, these sweet treats required no oven, just cold temperatures and patience. Layers of cookies or graham crackers were stacked with whipped cream, pudding, or fruit, then chilled until the layers softened and melded together. Popular variations included classic icebox cake made with chocolate wafer cookies, and elaborate layered creations with canned pineapple and maraschino cherries. Part of the charm was flexibility. Ingredients could be swapped depending on availability. They were perfect for potlucks and summer months when turning on the oven felt punishing. Chrome toasters with atomic starburst designs. In the 1950s, even the humble toaster was a statement piece. This was the atomic era, when design was infused with optimism and futurism. Chrome toasters sat proudly on countertops, often adorned with atomic starburst motifs that symbolized progress and modern living. They reflected fascination with space travel and the possibilities of the future. A chrome toaster wasn't meant to blend in, it was meant to shine. Polished to mirror-like finish, it caught morning light streaming through kitchen windows. These toasters were built to last, sturdy and mechanical, with levers that gave satisfying clunks. Today, these chrome toasters are highly sought after by collectors, serving as gleaming reminders of a time when everyday objects captured the excitement of a nation looking toward the stars. Salad made entirely of canned goods. In the 1950s, convenience was king, and nothing embodied that better than salads made entirely from canned goods. These dishes celebrated the marvels of modern food technology and the promise of a pantry that could deliver dinner without a single trip to the store. A typical canned salad might begin with a base of canned vegetables, green beans, carrots, or beets, drained and neatly arranged on a platter. From there, creativity ran wild. Pineapple rings stacked with maraschino cherries, canned pears topped with mayonnaise, or a mix of olives and canned mushrooms might make an appearance. Protein came from tins of tuna, chicken, or even Spam. These salads weren't just food, they were a reflection of an era fascinated by efficiency and novelty. Canned goods promised consistency, no worrying about whether produce was ripe or in season. There was a sense of pride in presenting a shimmering molded salad at a church potluck or dinner party, even if it had never seen a fresh vegetable in its life. Milk delivered to your doorstep in glass bottles. There was a time when the day's first sound wasn't the hum of a refrigerator, but the soft clinking of glass bottles as the milkman made his morning rounds. In the 1950s, milk delivery was an essential part of daily life. Fresh milk arrived right at your doorstep, neatly sealed in gleaming glass bottles, ready to be brought inside for breakfast. The process was simple but deeply satisfying. Empty bottles were left outside in a wire carrier, and by sunrise, they'd be replaced with full ones. The milkman often became a familiar neighborhood figure, someone who knew every family's preferences and sometimes stopped to chat. The thick glass bottles kept milk cool and were reused again and again, making the system surprisingly sustainable. Children would eagerly race to the door to bring in the bottles, careful not to drop them. Party cheese balls rolled in nuts. In the 1950s, no holiday gathering or neighborhood card game was complete without a centerpiece dish that was equal parts elegant and kitschy: the party cheese ball. This mid-century marvel was a host's secret weapon, a make-ahead appetizer that felt indulgent yet thrifty. The magic began with a base of cream cheese, mixed with shredded cheddar, blue cheese crumbles, or whatever flavorful odds and ends were in the fridge. Seasonings like Worcestershire sauce, garlic, or finely chopped green onions gave it extra punch. Once the mixture was shaped into a sphere and chilled, it was rolled in a generous coating of crushed nuts. Pecans or walnuts were the classics. Part of the cheese ball's appeal was its communal nature. Guests gathered around, breaking crackers and spreading them with tangy, nutty cheese while chatting and laughing. It encouraged mingling and created a warm, convivial atmosphere, perfect for the era's emphasis on entertaining at home. Gelatin salads with meat inside, aspic horrors. In the mid-20th century, few dishes were as visually striking or as divisive as the gelatin salad with savory meats suspended in shimmering aspic. These creations were the showpieces of 1950s cookbooks, proudly featured in glossy ads as the height of modern entertaining. At the heart was aspic, a clear gelatin made from meat stock. Homemakers would suspend slices of ham, chicken, tuna, or even hot dogs in layers of savory jelly, along with canned vegetables like peas, carrots, and olives. These gelatin salads were considered sophisticated, a way to show off both skill and style. They were common fixtures at dinner parties, church socials, and holiday feasts. The appeal lay in their novelty and practicality. Ingredients could be stretched, preserved, and beautifully displayed. Even in their heyday, aspic molds had critics, especially children who balked at the odd textures and unexpected flavors. TV dinners in foil trays. In the 1950s, few innovations captured the spirit of modern convenience quite like the TV dinner. Packaged neatly in divided foil trays, these ready-to-heat meals revolutionized dinner time. Before their arrival, dinner meant hours of preparation with piles of dishes to clean afterward. The TV dinner changed all of that with a promise that felt almost magical: a complete, balanced meal ready in minutes. The concept was first popularized by Swanson, whose iconic turkey dinner with stuffing, mashed potatoes, peas, and a brownie debuted in 1953. The timing couldn't have been better. Television was becoming the centerpiece of American living rooms, and enjoying a hot meal while watching a favorite show felt excitingly modern. Families would gather around their black and white sets, TV trays balanced on their laps, eating while laughing along with programs like I Love Lucy. Powdered drink mixes like Tang, pre-NASA fame. Long before Tang became known as the drink that went to space, it was simply another clever mid-century invention aimed at making life easier for busy homemakers. In the 1950s, powdered drink mixes were part of a wave of convenience products. Fresh oranges weren't always affordable or available year-round, and squeezing juice by hand was time-consuming. Enter Tang, a quick, shelf-stable alternative that required nothing more than a scoop of powder, a pitcher, and water. Of course, calling it orange juice was a stretch. These mixes were heavy on sugar and artificial flavoring, with a vivid orange color that looked more like a sunset than anything natural. Still, kids adored it, and parents appreciated that it was cheap, easy to store, and didn't spoil. It wasn't until NASA adopted it for the Gemini missions in the 1960s that Tang became truly famous. Soda fountains and malt shops. In the 1950s, before coffee chains and fast food drive-thrus, the neighborhood soda fountain or malt shop was the heart of teen social life and small-town charm. These establishments weren't just about grabbing a sweet treat. They were destinations where friends gathered, first dates unfolded, and gossip flowed as freely as the cherry syrup. Nestled inside drugstores or standing alone as classic diners, soda fountains were bright, bustling spots with chrome stools, checkered floors, and the irresistible hum of a milkshake machine. The menu was simple but magical: towering banana splits, thick chocolate malts, frothy root beer floats, and perfectly crafted sundaes with a cherry on top. Malt shops became cultural icons thanks to movies and TV shows, symbolizing youthful freedom and post-war prosperity. Soda jerks, the young men who expertly mixed drinks and piled whipped cream sky high, were almost as legendary as the treats they served. Sock hops in school gyms. In the 1950s, there were sock hops, school dances held right in the gymnasium, where teenagers kicked off their shoes and slid across the polished floor to the latest rock and roll hits. The name came from a practical rule. Shoes were forbidden to protect the gym floor, so everyone danced in their socks. It gave the event a casual, playful vibe that perfectly matched the exuberance of the post-war teen generation. Sock hops were more than just dances. They were cultural milestones. This was the era when rock and roll was still considered rebellious, with artists like Elvis Presley, Chuck Berry, and Little Richard providing the soundtrack to teenage freedom. The atmosphere was electric. Crepe paper streamers and balloons decorated the basketball hoops, while a record player or local band provided music. Girls arrived in poodle skirts and bobby socks, while boys sported Letterman jackets or crisp button-down shirts. Roller rinks with live organ music. In the 1950s, Friday nights often meant lacing up leather skates and heading to the local roller rink, where music, movement, and community blended into one unforgettable experience. Unlike modern skating with thumping pop tracks, mid-century roller rinks often featured something far more unique: live organ music. The sound of a mighty pipe organ or electric theater organ filled the air, giving the rink an atmosphere that was equal parts lively and elegant. The organist was the star of the show, sitting high above the crowd, playing jaunty waltzes, upbeat swing tunes, or even popular rock and roll hits. Each note seemed to match the rhythm of the skaters below, who glided in smooth circles under twinkling lights. Couples held hands as they spun gracefully together, while kids darted in and out, laughing as they tried to keep their balance. Go-kart tracks popping up in suburbs. In the 1950s, as suburbs expanded, a new form of entertainment began to zoom into the cultural landscape: go-kart tracks. These small, buzzing vehicles were the perfect blend of speed and accessibility, giving kids, and plenty of adults, the thrill of driving without needing a driver's license. The rise of go-kart tracks was fueled by affordable materials left over from World War II, and the booming economy that meant families had extra cash for leisure activities. Before long, entrepreneurs began opening commercial tracks in suburban areas, often on empty lots or near shopping centers. The experience was simple but exhilarating. You'd strap into a low-slung cart, hear the putter of a tiny engine, and then race around a looping track, the wind whipping past your face. For a few minutes, you could pretend you were competing in the Indianapolis 500, even if you were really just circling a track behind the local hardware store. Record stores with 45 RPM singles. In the 1950s, before playlists were streamed with the tap of a finger, music was something you physically held in your hands. For teenagers and music lovers, record stores were magical places, bustling hubs filled with the latest sounds of rock and roll, doo-wop, and rhythm and blues. At the heart of this experience were the 45 RPM singles, small 7-inch vinyl records with a hit song on one side and a lesser-known B-side on the other. The walls were lined with colorful sleeves, each showcasing different artists. Teenagers would crowd around listening booths, tiny, private spaces with headphones, where they could preview the latest releases before deciding which ones to buy. For just a few dimes, you could leave with your favorite song. These stores were more than retail spaces. They were social gathering spots where young people swapped recommendations and debated which artist was destined for stardom. Teen magazines with Elvis posters. In the 1950s, long before social media and instant celebrity updates, teenagers turned to glossy magazines for their fix of pop culture, gossip, and heartthrob daydreams. And no figure loomed larger on those pages than Elvis Presley. With his smoldering gaze, slicked back hair, and hip-shaking moves that scandalized parents and electrified teens, Elvis was more than a singer. He was a cultural revolution wrapped in blue suede shoes. Teen magazines like 17, Photoplay, and 16 magazine packed their issues with behind-the-scenes stories, interviews, and most importantly, fold-out posters of Elvis himself. For a teenage girl in 1956, tearing out that centerfold and hanging it on her bedroom wall was a declaration of devotion. Those posters became shrines of sorts, surrounded by lipstick doodles, scribbled hearts, and maybe even a hopeful Mrs. Presley scrawled in the margins. Homemade soapbox derby cars. In the 1950s, before video games and endless TV channels, kids built their own fun, literally. One of the most beloved childhood pastimes was crafting homemade soapbox derby cars, simple gravity-powered racers made from scrap wood, old wheels, and a whole lot of imagination. These weren't store-bought toys. They were labors of love, often built with the help of a dad, older brother, or neighborhood crew. The process began with scavenging. Families would gather leftover materials, wooden crates from grocery stores, wheels from discarded wagons or bicycles, and maybe an old steering handle. Once assembled, the real fun began: painting and decorating. Bright colors, racing stripes, or hand-painted numbers gave each car personality. Race day was pure excitement. Neighborhood streets would be blocked off as kids lined up with their homemade racers, the air buzzing with anticipation. There were no engines, no fuel, just gravity and guts. Penny arcades. Long before video game consoles, penny arcades were the original playgrounds of flashing lights and simple mechanical thrills. These bustling halls offered pinball tables with colorful artwork, fortune-telling machines delivering mysterious predictions, and mechanical shooting galleries. The atmosphere buzzed with the sound of coins dropping, gears whirring, and kids laughing as they tried to beat their friends' scores. For many children, the penny arcade represented independence, a place to go with allowance money, free from adult supervision, creating adventures one game at a time. Coin-operated jukeboxes. In diners across America, glowing jukeboxes sat like beacons of cool. These chrome-covered machines gave anyone with pocket change the power to set the mood for an entire room. The ritual was always the same. Slide a nickel or dime into the slot, flip through song titles behind glass, and choose the perfect track, perhaps Patsy Cline or Elvis Presley. Teenagers on dates used them to impress with carefully chosen love songs, while groups pooled their change to keep tunes playing all night. These machines captured the democratic spirit of the era, where for a few coins, you weren't just playing a song, you were part of a shared experience. Comic books for a dime. Comic books were simple, affordable pleasures that any kid could enjoy. For just 10 cents, children could walk into the corner drugstore and emerge with colorful booklets filled with Superman, Batman, or cowboys galloping across wild frontiers. Kids would stand before comic racks agonizing over choices, then trade issues with friends to stretch their dimes further. Despite parental concerns about violence leading to the Comics Code Authority, comics thrived as essential parts of childhood, read under covers with flashlights and passed around until pages were worn and dog-eared. Poodle skirts. Few items capture 1950s spirit like the poodle skirt, a symbol of youthful energy and emerging teenage culture. Made of felt and decorated with applique poodles, records, or flowers, these wide, swingy skirts were perfect for rock and roll dancing. When paired with saddle shoes and bobby socks, they created pure mid-century Americana. As girls twirled to Elvis or Buddy Holly, the skirts flared dramatically, matching the upbeat rhythms. Mothers and daughters often sewed them together at home, making the process both a bonding experience and creative outlet. Saddle shoes. These two-tone Oxfords, typically white with black or brown saddles, were staples of school hallways and sock hops. For teenage girls, they paired perfectly with bobby socks and poodle skirts, while boys wore them with cuffed jeans, achieving youthful cool without flashiness. Parents loved their durability. Teens loved their symbolism of wholesome rebellion. Polished enough for church, but playful enough for Friday night dates at the malt shop. Victory rolls and pin curls. Before modern styling tools, women relied on skill, patience, and bobby pins for glamorous hairstyles. Victory rolls, named for celebratory aerial maneuvers from World War II, created dramatic height and structure that looked striking with red lipstick and cat-eye makeup. Pin curls offered softer effects. Women wrapped damp hair around fingers, secured with pins overnight, then brushed into waves the next morning. These styles represented more than fashion. They embodied a way of life where beauty was both art and self-expression. Space helmet hairdryers. Home hairdryers, resembling futuristic space helmets, brought salon luxury into living rooms. These devices consisted of plastic domes connected by hoses to motorized bases, blowing warm air. Advertisements showed stylish women in glamorous robes, reading while their curls set, embodying the era's ideal of beauty and efficiency. They became symbols of independence, allowing women to control their beauty routines without spending hours or dollars at salons. Cat eye glasses. With upswept outer corners and bold frames, cat eye glasses were fashion statements rather than mere vision correction. Inspired by feline elegance and popularized by stars like Marilyn Monroe and Audrey Hepburn, they ranged from sleek black acetate to pastel shades decorated with rhinestones. They allowed women to express personality in an era of strict fashion rules, making wearing glasses feel stylish instead of awkward. Corsets and bullet bras. The 1950s feminine ideal emphasized structure and curves, achieved through corsets, evolved into more forgiving girdles, and iconic bullet bras with unmistakable pointed cups. These undergarments weren't merely functional, they were transformation tools, shaping bodies to match Hollywood's hourglass figures. Bullet bras, popularized by sweater girls like Lana Turner, created defined conical shapes that symbolized both modernity and boldness, representing women stepping into new, more confident societal roles. Men's fedora hats. No man felt fully dressed without a fedora. Sleek, structured, and undeniably dapper finishing touches to gentlemen's outfits. These soft felt hats with pinched fronts and medium brims were symbols of respectability and status. City streets looked like seas of gray and brown, felt as businessmen bustled along, hats tilted for sun protection or mysterious appeal. Taking off one's hat when greeting a lady wasn't just polite, it was expected social code. Nylon stockings in paper envelopes. After World War II rationing, nylon stockings returned as symbols of femininity and elegance. Unlike modern plastic packaging, these delicate nylons were carefully folded in flat paper envelopes with pastel colors and dainty lettering. Women treated them as prized possessions, storing them in tissue-lined drawers and knowing techniques like clear nail polish for snags. The delicate packaging reflected the care and pride involved in the simple ritual of putting on stockings. Chrome-trimmed cars with giant fins. 1950s automobiles were rolling statements of style and status, showcasing era fascination with the future and space age. Inspired by aviation and rockets, cars featured sweeping lines, metallic trims, and oversized tail fins designed to catch eyes and imagination. Brands like Cadillac, Chevrolet, and Chrysler competed for the most flamboyant designs. Knowing style often mattered as much as horsepower. These gleaming machines with colorful dashboards and plush interiors represented optimism and the belief that everyday objects could be art. Route 66 road trips. Route 66 wasn't just pavement, it was an invitation to adventure stretching from Chicago to Santa Monica. Families packed station wagons for journeys featuring diners with chrome stools, flickering neon signs, and jukeboxes playing rock and roll. Small-town gas stations provided fuel, directions, and postcards, while colorful motels offered rest and entertainment with sparkling pools. These trips were as much about the journey as the destination, with roadside attractions, family stories, and lessons in patience and wonder. Motel neon signs. Bright, colorful neon signs guided travelers to rest along highways, serving as beacons of optimism and post-war prosperity. These signs came in every imaginable design: sleek modernist fonts, playful icons like smiling suns or cowboy hats, competing to create the most eye-catching displays. Beyond practical function, they became landmarks and symbols of hospitality, representing safety, relief, and adventure excitement along America's growing highway network. Paper maps instead of GPS navigation required folding sheets of paper, essential tools for every road trip adventure. Families spread maps across kitchen tables, planning routes, mileage, and stops, making trips about the journey itself. Using paper maps required skill and patience, with missed turns often becoming the most memorable parts of trips through accidental discoveries of hidden diners and quirky towns. Maps didn't just show the way, they were invitations to explore and get lost deliberately. Gas station full-service trips to gas stations were more than quick fuel stops. Uniformed attendants tipped caps, pumped gas, checked oil, wiped windshields, and cleaned headlights, ensuring every car left polished. These professionals were icons of courtesy and rising car culture, with many young men seeing station work as responsibility and customer service education. Stations became social hubs where neighbors exchanged news while attendants worked, blending efficiency with community interaction. Passenger trains as default travel. Before interstates or budget airlines, passenger trains were primary cross-country transportation. Pullman cars offered privacy and comfort. Dining cars served meals on real china, and observation cars provided panoramic landscape views. Train stations were architectural marvels with grand clocks, marble floors, and elegant waiting rooms. Riding trains wasn't just transportation. It was elegant, communal experience of seeing the country mile by mile, window by window. Electric streetcars. In small towns, electric streetcars glided along quiet streets, carrying neighbors to work, school, and social events. Powered by overhead lines and creating distinctive hums and rhythmic clatters, they fostered community where townsfolk exchanged greetings and news. These cheerful, colorful vehicles ran on predictable schedules, shaping town development and serving as social connectors before automobiles dominated transportation. Kids riding bikes without helmets. Bicycles represented freedom, adventure, and independence for children. Kids pedaled down suburban streets in packs, racing around mailboxes and between parked cars, with bright-colored bikes featuring banana seats and chrome accents. Helmets were non-existent as childhood risks were considered natural growing-up parts. Neighborhoods hummed with spinning tires, laughter, and imagination as children delivered newspapers, ran errands, and embarked on spontaneous adventures. Spam as pantry staple. Spam emerged from World War II as a culinary lifeline and post-war practicality symbol. Housewives appreciated its shelf life, affordability, and versatility, using it in casseroles, sandwiches, and breakfast plates. Its popularity reflected 1950s trends, embracing processed foods, fascination with convenience, and optimism that technology could improve daily life. For many families, SPAM represented security, convenience, and the ability to create satisfying meals with available ingredients. tuna noodle casseroles. This dish symbolized mid-century practicality, comfort, and family togetherness. Combining canned tuna, egg noodles, cream of mushroom soup, and crunchy toppings, it embodied the era's focus on convenience without sacrificing flavor. Housewives appreciated its simplicity and ability to be assembled ahead of time, while families gathered around steaming portions that filled kitchens with rich, creamy aromas. It represented ingenuity, thrift, and care in home cooking. Powdered milk. Valued for convenience and shelf stability, powdered milk was essential for families, used as infant formula and in baking. For babies, it offered modern nutrition flexibility for working mothers or families on the go. In kitchens, it provided versatility in baked goods, pancakes, and sauces without requiring fresh milk storage. Its long shelf life made it the unsung hero of mid-century kitchens, supporting culinary ambitions and reliable infant nourishment. Velveeta cheese blocks. Velveeta embodied convenience, modernity, and culinary innovation with its smooth, consistent texture that melted perfectly. Housewives embraced it for transforming simple meals into creamy creations with minimal effort. Its predictability was invaluable for busy homemakers, allowing visually appealing, delicious meals with minimal stress. Beyond practicality, its creamy richness brought comfort to family meals, representing post-war optimism and creative home cooking ingenuity. Diners shaped like train cars. These stainless steel, neon-accented establishments modeled after streamlined rail cars gave everyday meals a sense of motion and adventure. Walking into train car diners meant experiencing narrow interiors with chrome-trimmed booths, red vinyl seating, and polished counters creating warm, bustling atmospheres. Many were prefabricated and shipped by rail, making restaurant setup convenient anywhere. They weren't just about eating. They connected patrons to modern travel excitement and post-war optimism. Airplane meals on real China. Air travel was luxurious adventure, with in-flight meals served on real China rivaling fine dining experiences. Airlines like Pan Am and TWA offered gourmet kitchen preparations with crisp linens, silverware, and porcelain dishes. Flight attendants moved with restaurant-like precision, delivering courses that emphasized comfort, service, and theater. Passengers dressed formally, making meals social events as much as necessities during travel's glamorous, leisurely era. Avon ladies door-to-door. Before shopping malls and online stores, Avon ladies brought cosmetics counters to front doors. These well-dressed women carrying signature cases offered perfumes and beauty products while building personal relationships, remembering birthdays and preferences. They represented independence and entrepreneurship, with many housewives supplementing income or young women establishing careers. Their visits were treasured rituals, moments of connection and beauty amid homemaking routines. Girdles advertised in Good Housekeeping magazine advertisements promised slimmer waists and smoother hips through tightly structured undergarments. These ads were persuasive with before and after illustrations, emphasizing elegance, confidence, and the polished domestic ideal. Girdles came in various styles with elastic panels and boning, representing the effort required to achieve socially approved silhouettes, and how domestic magazines guided women navigating beauty, femininity, and conformity expectations. Meatloaf baked in Pyrex dishes. In the 1950s, meatloaf baked in Pyrex dishes was a quintessential family dinner, embodying the era's emphasis on practicality, frugality, and comfort. Transparent glass dishes allowed cooks to monitor the meatloaf as it baked while doubling as serving vessels. Ground beef, or a mixture with pork, breadcrumbs, onions, and seasonings, created affordable, filling meals that could feed entire families with leftovers for sandwiches. The Pyrex dish shaped the meatloaf evenly and ensured consistent cooking while the glass sides browned beautifully. Hamburger helper. Before it was boxed. Long before the boxed convenience meal, housewives created their own versions using ground beef, pasta, and creamy sauce, improvising with pantry staples to stretch modest ingredients into filling family meals. Ground beef was browned and combined with noodles, rice, or macaroni, while canned soups created rich, cohesive sauces. These homemade helpers were versatile, economical, and reflected the era's resourcefulness and ingenuity in home cooking. Condensed soup casseroles. Condensed soup casseroles embodied modern convenience and post-war domestic ingenuity. Cream of mushroom or chicken soups transformed ordinary ingredients into hearty, satisfying casseroles that fed families efficiently. A base of meat, pasta, or rice mixed with condensed soup, sometimes thinned with milk, combined with vegetables and topped with breadcrumbs or cheese. These casseroles represented family togetherness and demonstrated the era's fascination with processed foods as time-saving solutions. Cabbage rolls and stuffed peppers. These hearty dishes brought old-world tradition to American kitchens. Cabbage rolls involved blanching leaves to make them pliable, then wrapping them around ground meat, rice, and herbs before simmering in tomato sauce. Stuffed peppers followed similar principles, hollowed and filled with flavorful meat and rice combinations. Both dishes were resourceful, making the most of inexpensive ingredients while delivering comfort and connecting families to their heritage. Salisbury steak TV dinners. TV dinners represented the perfect marriage of convenience and modernity. Salisbury steak versions combined familiar comfort food with freezer aisle ease. Complete, pre-portioned meals heated in minutes, featuring seasoned ground beef patties with brown gravy alongside mashed potatoes, green beans, or corn in compartmentalized trays. They reflected post-war America's celebration of convenience, progress, and time-saving technology while maintaining the appearance of complete, respectable meals. Macaroni salad at every church potluck. Macaroni salad earned reputation as the ultimate crowd pleaser at church potlucks and family gatherings. Its creamy, tangy dressing, tender pasta, and mix-ins like diced celery, bell peppers, or hard-boiled eggs made it satisfying and versatile. The salad could be prepared ahead, served cold, and transported easily, making it perfect for large gatherings. It symbolized mid-century communal dining, where sharing food was as much about fellowship as flavor. Root beer floats. Root beer floats were symbols of summertime, soda fountain culture, and simple joys. Combining fizzy root beer with creamy vanilla ice cream scoops created indulgent beverage dessert hybrids. At soda fountains, floats were theatrical affairs with ice cream plopped into tall glasses and root beer poured over, creating cascading froth. At home, they offered cool reprieve during hot afternoons or whimsical desserts after family meals. Milkshakes, hand-blended at soda fountains. Hand-blended milkshakes at soda fountains were epitomes of indulgence and craftsmanship. Unlike pre-packaged, machine-mixed shakes, these beverages were crafted with care, poured from blenders into tall, frosty glasses, often crowned with whipped cream or maraschino cherries. The soda jerk would whirl milk, ice cream, and flavoring into creamy concoctions with practiced hands, the process becoming part performance, part culinary craft. Banana splits served in long glass boats. Banana splits were theatrical experiences and centerpieces of soda fountain culture. Served in long, narrow glass boats, they combined layers of flavor, texture, and visual appeal. Classic splits started with perfectly split bananas cradling 3 ice cream scoops: vanilla, chocolate, and strawberry, topped with various sauces, nuts, cherries, or whipped cream. The glass boat showcased the dessert's artistry and made each split feel like a special celebration. Marshmallow fluff. Marshmallow fluff became a beloved kitchen staple, capturing imaginations with its sweet, airy texture. Most iconic in Fluffernutter sandwiches, peanut butter and fluff between white bread slices. It became a lunchbox favorite. Beyond sandwiches, it appeared in frostings, fillings, and desserts, offering convenience without elaborate preparation. It represented innovation, convenience, and a lighthearted approach to home cooking. Date nut bread with cream cheese. Filling this beloved treat combined hearty sweet chopped dates with crunchy walnuts, or pecans, creating satisfying, visually appealing bread. Cream cheese filling added rich, tangy contrast to natural date sweetness. The bread required attention and care, but was straightforward enough for home cooks. It was commonly shared at church gatherings and potlucks, expressing hospitality and care while connecting families to wholesome baking traditions. Icebox pies. Icebox pies were hallmarks of mid-century convenience, simplicity, and indulgence. Before modern freezers, refrigerators transformed humble ingredients into luscious, no-bake desserts. Classic versions featured graham cracker or cookie crusts filled with sweetened condensed milk, lemon juice, whipped cream, or chocolate pudding. Refrigeration allowed flavors to meld without oven heat, making them practical for hot summer months and elegant for any occasion. Ribbon candy at Christmas. Ribbon candy was a cherished holiday treat with delicate, colorful curls, red, green, yellow, and clear, that were as much visual feasts as taste experiences. Reserved for Christmas celebrations, its appearance signaled holidays had begun. Crafted from thin, pulled sugar, families displayed it on holiday tables or tucked pieces into decorative boxes as gifts. The translucent colors caught string-like glows, adding sparkle and cheer to living rooms. Oatmeal cake with broiled coconut topping. This beloved dessert combined wholesome oat heartiness with showmanship. Oatmeal provided dense, comforting base, while broiled coconut topping added sweetness, crunch, and visual appeal. After baking, sweetened shredded coconut was broiled briefly to achieve golden, lightly toasted finishes. The contrast between moist, hearty cake and crisp, caramelized coconut created delightful sensory experiences that symbolized both care and culinary skill. Saltwater taffy from seaside vacations. Saltwater taffy was quintessential to American seaside experiences. Boardwalks featured candy shops with glass jars filled with vibrant taffy sticks in flavors from vanilla and chocolate to banana, watermelon, and peppermint. Bright colors and glossy wrappers made it visually irresistible, while choosing and unwrapping became small vacation rituals. Its chewy texture and satisfying stretch made eating taffy sensory delights, perfectly tied to seaside memories. Homemade caramel corn for movie nights. Homemade caramel corn was synonymous with cozy family movie nights and burgeoning at-home entertainment culture. Families gathered in kitchens to prepare this sweet, crunchy delight, filling homes with irresistible aromas of sugar, butter, and golden caramel. Freshly popped popcorn served as base, while simple butter, brown sugar, and vanilla mixtures were boiled into glossy caramel, poured over, and baked briefly for perfect crunch. Atomic ashtrays shaped like UFOs. Atomic ashtrays were symbols of era obsession with futurism, space exploration, and mid-century modern design. Inspired by atomic age excitement and fascination with rockets, flying saucers, and outer space, these ashtrays combined practicality with playful, imaginative aesthetics. Crafted from molded glass or ceramic with sleek curves, metallic glazes, or bold colors, they featured classic UFO silhouettes with rounded tops and protruding antennas or fins. 3D movies with paper glasses. 3D movies were thrilling novelties offering audiences unprecedented cinema experiences. Theaters handed out simple red and blue paper glasses, transforming flat-screen images into dazzling depth illusions. Early 3D films captured post-war America's hunger for innovation and entertainment, promising adventure and magic in newly modern worlds. Flying spaceships, speeding cars, and playful creatures seemed to leap from screens, creating immersive experiences and communal excitement. Coin-operated cigarette machines were ubiquitous in diners, bars, and workplaces, reflecting social norms and rising convenience culture. These machines allowed instant cigarette purchases without waiting for clerks. Often designed with eye-catching colors, chrome accents, and illuminated panels, they transformed simple transactions into small spectacles. Insert coins, pull levers, and cigarette packs dropped into trays, offering instant gratification in efficiency-fascinated eras. Miracle gadgets, like vibrating belts for weight loss. Post-war fascination with health, modernity, and personal improvement gave rise to peculiar miracle gadgets, including vibrating belts for weight loss. Promoted in magazines and TV ads, these devices promised effortless slimming by strapping on motorized belts and letting them shake and vibrate bodies. They reflected mid-century optimism and growing technology fascination as solutions to everyday problems, representing hope, innovation, and ideal body pursuit. Hand-cranked ice crushers. Hand-cranked ice crushers were charming, practical fixtures in American kitchens, soda fountains, and home bars. These simple devices transformed ice blocks or cubes into fine, fluffy shavings, perfect for chilled drinks, cocktails, or homemade snow cones. Their presence reflected rising home entertaining popularity, where ingenuity could turn ordinary beverages into festive, modern treats. The rhythmic cranking motion was part of the ritual, allowing physical engagement and accomplishment sense. Portable record players with built-in speakers. Portable record players revolutionized music enjoyment, transforming record listening from stationary, homebound activities into mobile, social, immersive experiences. These compact devices allowed music lovers to carry favorite tunes to picnics, sleepovers, or across living rooms. Lightweight, often housed in leather-handled sturdy cases with built-in speakers, they required no separate amplification. Music was no longer confined to single rooms. It could move with listeners. Phone booths on every corner. Phone booths were familiar sights on city streets and suburban corners, serving as indispensable communication hubs before mobile phones or widespread home telephone service. These gleaming, often glass-paneled structures allowed people to make calls on the go, connecting families, businesses, and friends across neighborhoods, cities, and states. For many Americans, phone booths were lifelines. private spaces in public, and symbols of mid-century modern urban life. Soap operas. Broadcast live on radio. Soap operas were daily rituals for millions of Americans, weaving romance, intrigue, and family drama into everyday life fabric. These programs, broadcast live from studios, captivated listeners with serialized storytelling, cliffhangers, and dramatic performances. Many were sponsored by soap companies, with advertisements seamlessly integrated into broadcasts. The live nature added charm and intensity. Actors performed in real time with spot sound effects. Chain letters. Before email. Chain letters were curious blends of superstition, social networking, and handwritten artistry. Pre-digital ways of spreading messages, promises, and mild threats across towns and neighborhoods. Delivered through mail, these letters invited recipients to participate in rituals. Copy letters, add names and addresses, and send to set numbers of friends. They reflected slower, more deliberate communication paces, requiring patience, planning, and engagement. Mail order. Correspondence courses. Mail order correspondence courses were gateways to education, self-improvement, and personal ambition before online learning and instant information access. These programs allowed Americans from all walks of life to study subjects from shorthand and bookkeeping to photography, music, or aviation. Students received lesson packets at home, completed assignments, and mailed them back to instructors who returned graded work with feedback and next lessons. Church potluck suppers. Church potluck suppers were cornerstones of community life, joyful convergences of fellowship, food, and shared tradition. These gatherings brought together families, neighbors, and friends, creating atmospheres where conversation flowed as freely as homemade dishes spread across long tables. Every dish told stories, recipes passed down through generations, innovations inspired by necessity, and occasional daring experiments from proud cooks eager to impress. Barn dances. Barn dances were beloved traditions in rural America, lively celebrations of community, music, and simple pleasures. Held in spacious, rustic barns often adorned with string lights, homemade decorations, or hay bale seating. These events brought together families, neighbors, and friends for evenings of dancing, laughter, and social connection. Live music from local bands or fiddlers provided heartbeats for these gatherings. Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts. Merit Badge Fairs. Merit Badge Fairs were vibrant, eagerly anticipated events combining education, skill building, and wholesome fun. These fairs offered young scouts opportunities to explore new hobbies, develop practical skills, and earn recognition for achievements within lively, community-centered atmospheres. Typically held in school gymnasiums, church halls, or fairgrounds, they featured booths dedicated to wide subject arrays from first aid and woodworking to crafts and community service. PTA meetings with homemade coffee cake. PTA meetings were staples of school and community life, offering parents structured yet social spaces to discuss educational issues, organize events, and support local schools. These gatherings were infused with warmth, conversation, and unmistakable aromas of homemade coffee cake cooling on sideboards. Homemade coffee cake reflected era emphasis on frugality, practicality, and home-cooked comfort, often made with simple ingredients creating tender, moist crumbs. Summer camp sing-alongs. Summer camp sing-alongs were cherished traditions blending music, camaraderie, and outdoor adventure that defined childhood summer experiences. Whether held around crackling campfires, under towering pine shade, or in open lakeside clearings, these musical gatherings brought campers together, creating unity, fun, and shared ritual senses. Songs ranged from folk classics and patriotic tunes to playful camp favorites. Ice cream socials. Ice cream socials were beloved traditions across American communities, sweet and social ways to gather neighbors, friends, and families during long, warm summer days. These events, often held in churchyards, school playgrounds, or community halls, centered around simple ice cream pleasures served in cones, cups, or bowls, with toppings like chocolate syrup, sprinkles, or fresh fruit. They offered connection, community spirit, and shared enjoyment. Little League Baseball with hand-me-down gloves. Little League Baseball was more than sport. It was a rite of passage and communal heartbeat of small-town and suburban life. For many families, participation required resourcefulness, and hand-me-down gloves were common dugout fixtures. Worn in leather, scuffed from seasons past, these gloves carried histories of older siblings or neighbors, each crease and patch telling stories of catches made, grounders scooped, and games won or lost. Door-to-door encyclopedia salesmen. Door-to-door encyclopedia salesmen were familiar neighborhood presences, embodying both post-war prosperity optimism and era emphasis on education, self-improvement, and upward mobility. These salesmen carried heavy, leather-bound volumes into homes, offering families promises of knowledge, prestige, and tangible investments in children's futures. Owning encyclopedia sets marked aspiration, symbolizing that households valued learning and were willing to invest in academic growth tools. Sunday dinner as a family ritual. Sunday dinner was more than a meal. It was a cherished family ritual, bringing together parents, children, and sometimes extended relatives for occasions steeped in tradition, conversation, and comfort. Across small towns and suburbs, homes filled with aromas of roasted meats, fresh vegetables, and homemade bread, signaling pauses in weekly busyness and deliberate moments to gather, reconnect, and celebrate family life. And there you have it, 100 forgotten things from 1950s America that might just surprise you. From quirky gadgets to beloved traditions, these glimpses into the past remind us how much life has changed and how much charm those simpler times held. If you enjoyed this nostalgic journey, don't forget to like and share the video so others can take a peek into this fascinating era too. Hit subscribe for more trips down memory lane, and tell us in the comments which 1950s surprise was your favorite.